Yeah, so why don't we go ahead?
Okay. We have a couple of attendees. Let me add them.
Patrick, I'm on. I just don't have a screen for some reason.
Thanks, Reverend. I appreciate it.
All right. I think everyone should be able to mute and unmute themselves now and should be on a screen. Reverend Whitaker, you should be able to be viewed now. Okay, Patrick, you can get started.
Great. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Friday, March 18th, 2022 Public Clemency Board meeting. Before we begin, I just want to make our normal reminders about housekeeping rules for the meeting. Please make sure your microphones are muted when you are not speaking. And if you have any questions, please hold them. We'll have a period for questions. However, feel free to take advantage of the chat function to send questions there, and we will be happy to address them during the question and answer period of the meeting. Quickly, I just take a little roll call of the board members present so we can make sure we have a quorum to proceed. I will call the names of board members. Please let me know you are here. Alana Suttenberg.
Here.
Andrew Foyce. I see his. Andrew, you're here. You have to just say yes. I see you.
Yes, I'm here now. I had trouble with my audio, but I tried another device, so I'm all good. Thank you.
Okay, welcome. Emily Gunston.
Here.
Antonio Nunez.
Here.
Katia Semyonova.
Here.
Reverend Whitaker.
Here.
And Felisa Carter.
Here.
Great, we have a quorum, so we can proceed. So first we have old business. There are two pieces of old business, an update on the release of information process with MPD and the DC Superior Court. And the second is the update on the Clemency Board website. And I think we have very good news to report. So really happy to ask Christina Sacco from the Mayor's Office of General Counsel, which I think people know serves as the board's staff director, will provide an update on the progress of the Clemency Board website, the application and release forms concerning MPD and DC Superior Court. Christina can also take any questions from the board members and the public about these issues. Christina, thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Good morning. Good to see. Well, good afternoon, because we have our meetings now in the afternoons. So good to see you all. So as the board members know, and now the public, the Clemency Board application is actually live on the website. So thank you so much for all your hard work to help get that finalized the last meetings. With respect to the ROI process, we worked with MPD, the Superior Court, and CSOSA to get a combined ROI. That process is still being finalized. So the ROI that's currently in place is a placeholder that is an interim process that both CSOSA, MPD, and the courts are good with. And so we're able to launch it, and we can edit applications as we go. And so since the application is live, we tried to make it user-friendly. And obviously, if there are any suggested changes that need to be made, we can certainly make those. I'm able to make some small changes right away, but big systematic changes are beyond my website capability skills. So I would say if there are big changes, to just kind of give us a 48-hour time period to upload those, because we'll have to send it to OCTO, which is our Office of the Chief Technology Officer, and they handle those types of updates. So I was going to share my screen to give everyone a quick demo of what's on the website and see how the application looks. On the website, we've also added the regulations as well as previously updated agenda and notices for our past meetings, along with links to the recording. So we've created a YouTube channel, which is our only form of method of uploading videos. So you're all famous. You have a YouTube channel right now, and I will show you how you can see all of that. And then I will take questions from the board and then take questions from the public, and then we can move on to other issues. So just give me a moment as I share my screen.
I think the YouTube option should be promoted as a reason to join the Clemency Board. I think that my social cachet just went up dramatically.
Yeah, certainly I'd agree with that. Can you all see the Clemency Board website? Okay, great. So as you can see, this is the homepage of the website, just a little bit of a banner, but to go through the homepage, just a quick small blurb and description about the Clemency Board. As you can see, our upcoming meeting was listed here. And as you click on the upcoming meeting, it'll take you to where in the DC Register it's located. So notices and agenda on the Clemency Board is published in the DC Register, and we link it here for your convenience. So you don't have to dig it up in the DC Register. And when you click on that, it takes you to the actual notice. So I'll head back. So that's the home page. It has our office address, phone number, and email for the Clemency Board. The About page is just a small description about what the Clemency Board is, how it was established. I think one of the things we've highlighted is that we would want to educate the public that it is the board doesn't have the authority to grant clemency, but that what we do have is the authority to recommend clemency to the president. It highlights that, to be granted clemency, you must file an application with DOJ pardon. And we also hyperlink that here. So it takes them to the DOJ clemency page with the clemency forms and instructions so the public can be informed about how they can actually apply for clemency. And then I'll cover the application page last, but I just wanted to go to the board members page first. It just has a description of all of the board members just by name and what your position description is according to the DC code. And then under the meetings and events page, it's just basically a link to all of the events that we previously had. So if individuals want to look up our previous board meetings, they can do so. So I'll give you an example of September 1st meeting, partly because this is one that I did myself and wanted to give it a quick run. So September 1st, 2021, just to show the public how you can look up agendas and access recordings. So if you just hit apply after you add in the date, you can also search by category, and you can see the previous board meeting will show up at the bottom. If you click the link, it'll take you similar language that you saw for today's meeting, and it links where the agenda was published in the DC Register for the September meeting. When you click on that, it takes you to the September meeting publication. If you go back, if you want to access the recordings, now, for instance, for this meeting, obviously the recording is in progress. At the conclusion of the meeting, once we download that, I will link it on. I will upload it to our YouTube channel and link it here. So here's a recording from the last September 1 meeting. Just press pause, but you're able to access it here. We don't So you can see, here's our YouTube channel. Currently, we're divided up all meetings by years, so you can access 2020 board meetings, 2021, and the 2022 board meetings. And each time you need to look up an agenda, we'll have a link to those meetings. And going to our contacts page, pretty standard mailing address, email, how they can reach us, but that's also listed down here. And now to the application. The application just details that there must be a complete application, which is in alignment with our regulations, and obviously that is delineated more in detail. But what it stresses here is that an individual can submit an application in 3 ways, and that's by submitting it online, clicking on these links to download the application and emailing the completed form and releases to clemency@dc.gov, or downloading the form and mailing it to the following address. It highlights again that the Clemency Board cannot grant clemency, that it only can recommend clemency to the president. And then again, we cite to the DOJ application for clemency. So we'll start off with the downloadable forms, partly because I think the online application where you can submit it directly to us is a little bit of a longer process to describe. So we'll start with this. So they're hyperlinked here, and the public can go and click on this link, and what it'll do is it'll take you directly to the application that you can hit on the top right-hand corner. You can print, download, and it's basically our application that we worked on together. And that can also be completed via hand if they want to be able to mail it into us, and email it or mail it, they can do it. So this is the same link that is done here as well for the mailing options. It's the exact same link, same application in a PDF format. Now, with respect to the online application here, this is a little bit of a different format. The software that's being used here is called Seamless Docs. And what it does is it allows an individual to create an account, save their application and complete it later. But the instructions does indicate that they, probably should gather all the documentation that they need. So to view the application ahead of time, you can certainly do that. All you need to do is hit the checkbox button to continue and hit next. And as you can see, it's fillable. So all the asterisks here are just required fields. And the way that it works is that it requires each applicant to fill in information on all of these areas. So unfortunately, Seamless Doc does not have conditional coding, which essentially means if no, then move to question 6 kind of a condition. Instead, an applicant would have to go and fill in each category and say not applicable or not. For instance, for the DC numbers, you would have to, and we added in a hover text that indicates to an applicant, if this does not apply to you, please respond with not applicable or none. So essentially they would complete the form as is, and then they can hit submit. They have the opportunity to attach additional file or documents. For instance, if they previously applied with the DOJ and currently have a DOJ application pending, they can most certainly do that. And then one thing to note here is that these are all checkable boxes. The dates allow you to use a calendar option at the bottom. They're all pretty self-explanatory. So an applicant will not be able to actually submit an application until all required fields are filled. So I can give you a quick demo of what that would look like if you don't if you don't submit all of those forms. It will, an error message would pop up, but I just wanted to come down to the release forms page. And what we have here are instructions on how to fill out the release forms. And then the release forms that are from BOP, the medical release forms from BOP. This is the combined ROI that, as I indicated in the beginning, that we are still formalizing, but this would be our interim process for now. And then this is the medical ROI for CSOSA. And lastly, we have the DOJ release form, and that's the conclusion of the application. And just to give you a quick demo, if application fields are not submitted, it wouldn't go through to us, and it would indicate to the applicant what was missing. So this is the application form currently in place. I think I've covered all pages. Once an applicant submits an application with us, they will, on our end, Seamless Docs will provide us a ping in our email, and that's how we will know we'll have an application and their identifiers with an applicant's name, and then it creates an application number for the applicants that we can go in, and what it does, which I think is a really cool aspect of Seamless Docs, is once it attaches an application number to an application, it does so for all of the attachments associated with that application. And so we'd see an application and then the attachments along with it. So that is the entire application. I will stop sharing my screen and take any questions from the board or the public.
I don't have a question, but Christina, I want to tell you that's just miraculous. That's amazing work. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Andy. I appreciate that. Couldn't have done it without you guys.
I just want to echo Andy. That is great job, Christina. And yeah, you could have done it without us.
Thank you, Reverend.
Are there any other questions or for members of the public as well?
Yeah,
This is
I actually
Professor Moy. Oh, I do have one question. I'm not sure if my colleague is planning to ask the same question. So I do think that it looks great for folks who have access to a computer and would be able to fill it out. I'm concerned about how would we get this paper document application to folks who are in the institution, and how would they know, particularly the sections that you pointed out where the little prompt pops up that says, like, you don't have to fill this out, or go to the next one, or you have to put in NA. How would a person who's filling that out, a handwritten copy, know how to do that?
Sure. Thanks, Mr. Boyd. One of the things that I can certainly start sharing my screen again, but outreach is going to be very important. And I think one of the things the reason why we created a downloadable version of the application on the website is so advocates, groups that actually go into BOP facilities can actually just download the application, print it out, and take it with them. And that way it is accessible. You know, we're going to work on outreach activities next, and that would include educating the public about the forum, addressing any other questions. But just to direct your attention to your question about how they would know to do that in an application form, I will share my screen one more time. So if you look at, for instance, if we go to apply, oh, we're already there, and they're about to download the form. Let's take the first few questions here. One of the things we will do is there's a little bit of a banner here that says, you will not be able to submit your application if any questions remain unanswered. For questions that do not apply to you, please respond with not applicable or none. Now, certainly, I think that's a good way to kind of inform the public that this is the, you know, we require that everything be filled out. But if, you know, rather than creating a lot of text for each question, we think it would make the application look too heavy. So that was our solution to that.
Thank you.
My question actually is a little different. It is, I'm looking right now at, and also I echo, this is amazing. It looks really good. And the PDF for the FOIA, that's what I had up a second ago. So it's the Federal Bureau of Prisons, that FOIA that has to be filled out by somebody. So name, got it. That shouldn't be hard. 2 is okay. 3, authorize person, agency, org. So how does the person know how to fill that out? And then 4, to disclose to, and then I think it gets more complicated after that.
Right. It certainly is really complicated, Professor Ross, but I can go back and address those. So if we look at, and this is, are you referring specifically just to the first BOP ROI, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken?
I pulled that up just because as you were going through it, I thought, oh, let's see if this works for somebody who doesn't have a lawyer.
Sure, yes. Okay, I'll share my screen. Okay, so the BOP ROI, apply to board. So are you referring to this in particular here?
Oh, yes, that's it. Thanks.
Okay, great. So we have provided some instructions about what would be needed to be filled here. So BOP release form, please complete. Please list the clemency board under line number 4. In box number 6, please write in the following information. And please remember to initial 5 and 7. And that's all that's really needed on our end. And then there's instructions for the medical release form about what is required, at least for BOP purposes. Now, if you notice on the form, particularly with the medical release form, some things are already checked and held in place for us. And that is already there because of BOP gave it to us that way. So they want us to keep the citation on here as, I guess it's a security that they added to this. So this is their pre-released form. For our purposes, we just need the name and the address, like they're giving consent to the clemency board, and their signature. And from then on, we can work out the details. We don't really know what the receiver of these applications, these requests will do with it, but from our conversations with the general counsel, this is all that's required. But from the application end of things, so if an applicant wants to submit an application through the Clemency Board's Seamless Doc app, what we did to kind of make it a little bit easier for applicants so they can do it on their own, is we pre-filled that information for them. So like our address and the disclosure is made for the purpose of receiving the letter of recommendation from the Clemency Board. And put that here.
And what are other objectives there in that link?
I'm sorry?
It said other, you just went by something that said other objectives.
Where was that in particular? I'm sorry.
B, there it is, 5B.
B?
Yeah, 5B.
5B, okay. So the other objectives wouldn't apply to us, so it would only be under 5A. So the instructions are here, as indicated. It only asks for initial under 5A and 7A. So you don't need to fill out 5B, and that's where I would, as you can see, it's not required here. We didn't add an asterisk. So the only thing that would be required is a signature and signing. So
for 5A, it says for community programs. So that means that if somebody is currently not incarcerated, then they don't fill out that? Okay. And if they are incarcerated, includes wherever they're incarcerated, or just, it says Attorney General, probation. It doesn't, does it say Federal Bureau of Prisons?
It does at the top. But this, again, this was information that was already in the form that was provided to us by the Department of Justice, BOP's General Counsel. And so I totally understand you're reading it as for community programming. This is actually their form that they utilize to release ROI records. And so from our understanding is they, created that authority for us to utilize it and keep the process the same, but we would be able to have access to it. And so I understand this is for individuals that are currently in custody. And I guess it says you can indicate for files. For instance, if an applicant doesn't want these files to be released, they can indicate that underneath. I think that's what that is indicating to the public. But what it's stating is that if you have been in previous BOP custody, whether you're incarcerated or not, we would be able to access those files.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions from anybody in the public? Anybody? So I very much appreciate this presentation, Christina. I think it is this is a watershed moment for the board. We now have an application, it's published, and we can start to receive them. So that's really amazing. As Christina said, our next set of plans have got to be around getting the word out about this application, trying to meet with community groups that would actually interact directly with folks who may wish to apply to the Clemency Board. So that's going to be a big part of what's happening going forward. And I think we do have other media activities planned, including a pamphlet and maybe others that would help, give a how-to about how to approach this application. We certainly welcome partners from places like Howard University Law School. If you're willing to help us with that, we'd be very much delighted to have that. So if there's no other comments, we're going to move on from old business and go to new business. And the new business that's been published on the agenda is a review of the internal procedures for the Clemency Board. These are still being developed since the priority was really to focus on the website and the application go live. So we will schedule a meeting to review the internal procedures when they are ready. Our staff director will send those out a week before the next Clemency Board meeting, so board members and the public will have time to review these documents and ask questions. With that, at this time, I'd like to make a motion to add a new item to the agenda. I would like to make a motion to add the review of the Clemency Board pamphlet to the agenda. Can I get a second from a board member?
Second.
Thank you.
Oh.
Great. I'll turn it over to Christina again to present on the current draft version of the Clemency Board pamphlet. Christina will take any questions from the board and members of the public about the pamphlet. Very excited we have this content. It may not be in its actual final beautiful format, but the content's there and ready for a discussion with the board and the public. Christina? Do we lose Christina? I don't see her on my list.
Still here, sorry.
That's okay.
Got lost with Windows. Okay, thank you, Patrick. So with the Clemency Board application being live, we obviously wanted to help with the education of the Clemency Board. And so we have a draft pamphlet that was recommended to us by outreach stakeholders when the outreach committee had initially had these initial conversations about how to get the word out and what are some of the difficulties you would have about reaching the public. And one of the things that they mentioned, and it goes back to Professor Moyd's question, how do we get paper applications in there? well, how do we also get these paper pamphlets in there? One of the ways we thought about that is creating a pamphlet that we would also put on our website and give to advocates to be able to get the word out. And it's really a one-pager that has, frequently answered questions, just to kind of let people know that the Clemency Board does not have the authority to grant clemency, but what it does is provides letters of recommendation and then where they can go to access the application. So again, yes, this is a draft format. It would need to go through our communications department, and they will beautify it and finalize it and make it look more professional than my Word. Actually, our colleague Hugh Mayo on here did a great job on this, so I will like to, certainly share that with you guys, and then we'll go from there. All right. So as you can see, the pamphlet, again, it will be a trifold. You'll have the cover page, which essentially is just the name of the Clemency Board. This would end up being the back of the pamphlet, which would have just our address, contact information, the website, the phone number for the board, and then just a quick blurb about what the Clemency Board does and where they can find, information about the application of the board, the application process, dates for upcoming board meetings, and then the website again. So the next page is just a frequently asked questions page. So it would, as you open it up, it would ask who can apply, and it's any person convicted of a DC code offense who meets the eligibility requirements set by the DC code. And then it asks, what is clemency? And it breaks down that clemency includes both a pardon and commutation, and explains the difference between a pardon and commutation. Then it asks, does the board grant clemency directly? And this is where it goes into the same language that we have on the website, that DC is not a state, the mayor is not a governor, and the board cannot grant clemency directly, but that the current law states that the president is the only authority to grant clemency over DC laws, and that to be granted clemency, they must file with the DOJ, Office of the Pardon Attorney. And then it highlights that the Clemency Board writes letters of recommendation to the President of the United States for consideration when deciding to grant clemency, and that we'd certainly provide a copy of that to the DOJ as well. How to submit an application for a letter of recommendation. It states that you can apply online, via email or mail, and details about the application process can be found on the Clemency Board's website. And then it goes into eligibility requirements. So it goes into some of the things that are stated on the DC code and the regulation. We try to keep it very bare bones. So for those seeking a pardon, you have to have committed a violation of a district law or regulation, not have any available judicial forms, so that ability to exhaust judicial remedies. And then there's that 5-year waiting period after releases, and then not have been convicted of any other criminal offenses that are currently pending, because we obviously can't review pending cases. And then the ability to demonstrate rehabilitation, the ability to describe how a pardon would help benefit the applicant or the community, and that goes into the essay question in the application. And then those seeking a commutation, the requirements are a lot less. It's just the ability to demonstrate demonstration. The essay questions, the ability to demonstrate rehabilitation, the ability to describe how it would benefit the applicant, and how it would benefit the community. And then we state that you could refer to the regulations, which in more detail about the eligibility requirements, which are also found on the Clemency Board website, which I realize I did not show you where that is found. And then question 6 states what happens if an application for a letter of recommendation is closed or denied. So we tried to create that difference for applicants, so they don't think that a closed application is a denied application. So in this case, an application is closed if it's incomplete, And so if it is incomplete, an applicant will be able to reapply once they get the required documentation. Another instance where an application can be closed is if they don't meet the eligibility requirements set by the DC code. And at that point, we say we state to the applicants that they can reapply once they become eligible, and that they can refer to the regulations for more details. Question 7 says, what happens if an application is denied? So when an application is denied, opportunity to reapply after 2 years of the denial. And question 8 states, what does it mean if my application is deferred? And so these are the instances where we say if an application will go into a deferred status if the board may need more time to gather supporting documents. For instance, let's say it's incomplete, we need to get another ROI filled, or we're missing an important aspect of an applicant's application before we consider it. So at that point, it'd be deferred. And then question 2 is if we need to schedule a hearing and for logistical reasons, with whether reaching the applicant or reaching, most of the times the hearings for BOP might be challenging. That timeframe process might be extended. And so going into a deferral will allow the application to be put on hold without expending the 6-month time frame process for the application. So this is just a quick draft of what it would look like. Hopefully, you find it helpful. If there's any questions about it, I'm happy to take them from the board and the public, or any suggested changes or additions that you think would be helpful.
Thanks very much,
Ilana.
Christina.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm finished.
Hi, it's Ilana. First of all, you managed to make it much prettier than I could without a graphic designer. So good job to you on that. Are you able to just circulate this so we could just take a closer look at it, if that's okay? I have like one thing I noticed that's a really wonky edit offhand was, I think it was actually a different act that established the Clemency Board. I think it was kind of incorporated into a different one, but there's just kind of a few in the weeds things. If I could just take a quick look, would be helpful.
Sure, absolutely. I can certainly do that.
Other questions from the board? Or how about from the public? Any questions? Christina, I just want to appreciate that, part of this is the dialogue that the staff is already doing with community groups around clemency, and that this was an idea that came from the community and that you immediately jumped on and made happen. So just really appreciative of that. So thank you for that. I also know that we're going to start to ask board members to participate in some of these public meetings as well, as we start to go back partially remote, partially in person, where people are comfortable to participate. Would really like to have that happen for board members in particular, and for members of the public to be able to say to us, here's a meeting we think is important for you to attend and to come share this news. So really glad that we're going to have some materials to bring with us when we do that.
Patrick, this is Andy. How about getting these pamphlets into prisons? Our folks are unfortunately spread out all over the country, but is there any way we can find out where they are and mail a bunch of these to each of the prisons?
I know.
I have a suggestion, Pat.
I was just going to say, I know that there are other organizations within the district government that do have direct relationships with inmates across the country and are charged with visiting them. And maybe that's a link. Reverend, tell us about that.
Well, the CIC would be the quickest way, because they go to prisons on a regular basis, and they know where everybody is, so they can get the material that they needed to the inmates pretty quickly.
And I know that we've already.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, the staff has already had direct conversations with CAC, and I think that's an ongoing issue. Am I right, Christina?
That's correct. Both with CIC and CSOSA, we've had that discussion of giving them pamphlets. That recommendation actually came from them. And so what we're hoping to do is to, as we begin our outreach activities and we finalize the pamphlet, and work out any kinks that we have left over with the ROI process, that we would just give them a copy and they can take it in there with them. We do have a way of finding where everybody is and what facilities they are at. So we can certainly also reach out to the different facilities and maybe just send the pamphlet via email to be promoted. But I think the priority is to utilize our advocacy groups because they actually get to go in there.
Fantastic.
And I think Professor Moyd indicated, she left in the chat, has regular meetings that the Reentry Action Network has regular meetings to focus on various topics at each meeting. This would be a great starting place to spread the word amongst many Reentry Network. Yes, Professor Moyd, completely agree. We actually did meet with the Reentry Action Network, and we're hoping to circle back with everyone that we had those initial conversations with.
Great.
One other idea, this wouldn't apply to outreach in prisons, but the public libraries always have a lot of flyers when you walk in. It might be an appropriate place to kind of have some more flyers.
Thank you. That's a great idea.
That's a great idea. Great. Okay, so next on the agenda is public comments. Are there any public comments? Anybody in the public want to comment on anything that we've talked about today or bring to the attention of the board any other issue that would be important for us to know about?
Hi, yes, this is Ethan Anderson. I was going through the minutes for today that was provided on the DC regs, and I don't think the actual meeting link was provided. So I think just to bring that to your attention.
Thanks, Mr. Anderson. You're saying the transcript or the minutes from the last meeting did not include this meeting's link?
Yes, so it on the meeting on the minutes for the meeting for today, it has like meeting link and then it's blank and then under it says registration. Please click control and the link above, but that link was actually never provided.
Okay, we'll take a look at that and make sure that we get it to be as user-friendly as possible. Really, the idea is to have the public be widely engaged. So thanks for bringing that to our attention, and we'll go ahead and make sure we get that addressed.
Thanks. On a different topic, this is Professor Ross here. Just a question about the budget. I know that you haven't covered that yet, but it's coming up. And I understand, Ms. Sacco, that Clemency is mentioned for a little bit of a boost in a budget. And I just wonder sort of what is visualized. Is this going to be a full-time person that's working under you? I know you've managed to be like Superwoman, but...
I think I can take that. This is Betsy. Hi. And the CFO's office has an error that only gave OGC, the Office of General Counsel, up 0.5 FTE when the determination was to have one more full-time person at OGC. And so that'll be in the mayor's errata letter that goes to council. So don't be alarmed if you see in the budget that we only get a half-time FTE, the one that's on the OCFO's website. We're going to get one more full-time person to be a staff director.
Thank you. And do you have some thoughts about like is this person going to be a lawyer, or is that not necessarily more like a staff person? I mean, a administrator, excuse me.
I think so far it's been pretty valuable to have the lawyerly skills that Elena Sisnet brought to it, and then Christina and the rest of the team. But you're right that this is going to be a very heavy paperwork and management job. So we're just going to have to figure it out at OGC for getting the paperwork flow. I say paperwork, I know I'm such a dinosaur, the document flow. The document flow and the logistics, there's a lot of logistics in scheduling the hearings, and we're aware of that, but we anticipate it to be an attorney slot.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, thanks for raising that. And your track record, Betsy, in terms of bringing pretty high quality people to the table for us to work with has been, let's say, 100%. So I'm really
Thanks.
confident that
MOTA helps. The
Yeah.
Mayor's Office of Talent and Appointments finds some great people, and I'm count myself lucky. Great staff.
fantastic. Cool.
I would think it'd be a pretty rewarding and interesting job for somebody professionally. I don't, for all the talk about problems in the workforce, I think people would find this work very fulfilling, and I'm sure we'll get some good applications.
That's great. Great. Okay.
I have
Go
a
ahead.
question on a totally different point. I thought somebody else would make it, but no one else has brought it up. So I know you were working on filling up the board. And I think the chair, Kavanaugh, was working on that. Where are we right now with?
I'm probably going to defer to the OGC staff on that. I do appreciate, however, you bringing up my mother. My mother was Genevieve Kavanaugh. My name is Canavan, but Kavanaugh married a Canavan, so I'm very happy that you bring my mom to light today. So thanks for that. But maybe somebody on the staff can talk to us.
Nomination was sent for someone who was in prison for council confirmation, so it's pending at council.
Fantastic. Okay. Any other
My understanding
comments
is
from the
that
public?
those nominations were withdrawn.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said, Antonio.
Oh, sorry. So we had two clemency board nominations come to the council, but they were withdrawn by MOTA. And I think it's because of Mr. Foyce's sort of still wanting to be on the board until his Senate confirmation process wraps up. So there's nothing before the council. I just wanted to.
Okay, Antonio, that's good to hear. I didn't know that, so I was wondering about my own status. So thank you.
Yep.
And I believe there was also a vacant spot for someone with a background in victims' rights. And I don't know if there was any progress on that seat.
With respect to that seat, I think MOTA is still searching. So if you have any recommendations of people and individuals, please let them know that MOTA is looking to fill that seat. I think one thing we highlighted, and I think maybe Patrick can speak to this, is that we sent a request to council to add a returning citizen seat to the board, and I really think Andy, your nomination is pending, but one of the ways that this would be a great fix is to have that seat be created, and that nomination can go through. But we just wanted to be able to, see if that could be something to move forward on council's end.
Pardon me, I didn't know about this February 25th action. I was familiar with the nomination being sent down, but I see in LIMS it was withdrawn on the 25th.
Yeah, no worries. And Christina, I can answer sort of where we are in the council process with that. So Councilmember Allen is fully supportive of adding another seat or creating another seat for an individual who is a returning citizen. We just need to find a legislative vehicle to do that. And given that we're in the middle of budget, and yeah, so it's sort of on us to sort of figure that out. And I think I can provide an update to the board and the public probably in April or May, see where we are with that.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that. And maybe we can put that as an agenda item for our an April meeting. Are there any other public comments or board member comments at this point? Okay, very good. I really appreciate the open nature and the good-hearted nature of everybody in jumping in around any of these startup issues, where we are at the finish line with startup of this board, and the applications are now public. So I feel like we're really moving forward. I was going to suggest that perhaps we look at scheduling a board meeting tentatively. I know that the next real issue here is some of the, looking at the procedures, the internal procedures for the board. I'm just looking for an indication if we wanted to maybe schedule a meeting tentatively for Friday, April 8th at 1 p.m.
It's fine for me, Patrick. And Zandy.
Okay. Alana, I see is fine.
Fine for me, Patrick, Felisa.
Thank you.
Fine for Emily.
Great.
Works for me, Pat.
Great. Thank you. So we definitely have a quorum there. Katya, I'm not sure if you're still on.
I think that's fine. Can you repeat the date?
Yeah, it would be Friday, April 8th at 1 p.m.
Yes.
Fantastic. Let's plan on that, and we'll do the DC register and all the things that we need to do. And with hope, we will have procedures to review at that point. And then we can also bring up this issue of the status from the council member Allen's office about adding that new seat. Great. It's last call. Any other business to be brought before the board by the board? Okay. Anybody want to make a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Seconded.
Fantastic. We're adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. I hope you get a little time outside today. It is beautiful. I hope you get a moment outside.
All right. Thanks, Pat.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Pat.
Bye.
Have a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah.